Airbnb does say, they seem to hint that more photos is better. I don't buy it. I'm more concerned about the conversion rate. So you don't have to take, I'm in my kitchen right now, you don't have to take 5 angles of the kitchen. You just have to take one angle that gets 90% of it in.
This is episode number 39 of the Short-Term Rental Success Stories podcast. Are you an investor that's looking to have your home professionally managed? Go to cohostit.com for more information. Welcome back to Short-Term Rental Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Sage. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing their short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews, so please go on over to iTunes and let us know what you enjoy, as it really helps support the show. If you haven't done so already, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation, to connect with the community. Hey, what's going on, Host Nation? I am super excited to be able to bring to you someone that I've been really following since I first got started in the short-term rental space. This guy, he is super knowledgeable, and his blog articles on Airbnb and optimizing are really, really well thought out. But as the season is upon us, it's a lot more challenging to get bookings because everybody is dropping their prices. It's a lot more competitive because there's a lot just less traveling going on. So being able to optimize your listing is crucial if you're trying to get more bookings. And in this episode, we have the special honor of speaking with Daniel Rusteen. Danny is the author of Optimize Your BNB, the highest rated and most highlighted book on Airbnb and Amazon. Danny shares just so much valuable content on how to get your Airbnb listing to the top and to increase your chances of getting booked and making more money. If you haven't subscribed to the show notes where I share my success secrets, this is one that you definitely want to subscribe today, guys. There is just so much knowledge dropped in this episode. There's a lot of success secrets in this episode. So if you haven't done so already, go to shorttermsage.com/STR39. But if you like my success secrets sent directly to your inbox every week, then go to shorttermsage.com/show notes. With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. Hey, welcome back, Host Nation, to another episode of Short-Term Rental Success Stories. In this episode, I have the special honor of speaking with the one and only Danny Rusteen. Danny is the founder. He's the person that wrote the book on Optimize My Airbnb. It is a game changer, guys. Previously he was working for Airbnb, and now he is really just more like an optimization expert. He has a blog about it, writes all about this stuff. When I got into the space, when I first started, I followed Danny's content and used that in my own listing. And his book is just a gold mine of information. So I got him on the show. I know a lot of you guys have been asking about him. So without further ado, Danny, please let the audience know a little bit more about who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Danny, and I first heard of Airbnb in 2012, about eight years ago. And through a process of working at Airbnb and then working through an Airbnb property management company, and then starting my own Airbnb property management company, and then from there starting the optimization, which is the thing that I spend my most time on. That's like the brain, and then there's the book, there's the remote property management, there's the blog and the YouTube and everything else.
Now, before you started working at Airbnb, because this is kind of probably what started it all, what brought you to that position?
Oh, I hated my job, but I didn't know it at the time. So I quit without having another job lined up. This was back in 2012, I think. And you're not supposed to do that, especially when you have a prestigious, I'm a CPA by trade. I'm still a CPA, actually. But when you have a prestigious job and your family's happy and society thinks you're doing really good things, I just quit my job. We had a 2-week break over Christmas, and it just like hit me. I was like, I just don't like it. I didn't know I hated it at the time. I knew I really didn't like it. And we were just coming into busy season. So this is like the last time that typically you're supposed to cancel because people need you. But I was just like, I just can't do it. I don't want to. So I quit. And I heard of Airbnb through my job search at that time. I interviewed for Airbnb. They said no at first. I worked for another company. So my thought process was, I was a public accountant. So I said, all right, I know I don't like my job. Maybe if I work for a private company in accounting, I'll like it. So I worked for a private company in accounting department because Airbnb said no. When I went to Airbnb, I was like, I will work here. They said no the first time. I stayed in touch, worked for a different company, didn't like that job equally. did not like both jobs equally. So then my thought process was, okay, so I don't like accounting, public accounting. I don't like accounting at a private company. Maybe it's I need to like the actual company. And that's the missing piece. So I was like, I like Airbnb. I travel like this anyways. It clicked for me. People back then were like, there's a famous quote where Brian Chesky, the CEO, was telling one of his idols about his idea. And his idol said something to the effect of like, I hope that's not your only idea you're working on. And he didn't get it. I got it right away. Someone told me I got it right away. It makes sense. So I stayed in touch with Airbnb a few months, 3, 4, or 5 months later. The recruiter said, hey, we got another job, different position, same team. So they said, you want to interview for it? I said yes. So I did. And after something like 18 interviews in like 2 weeks, the prior job must have known, because there's only so many doctor's appointments and calling in sick and have to, pick your brother up you can do in a 2-week period without being found out. And they said yes. And that's how I weaseled my way into Airbnb.
So you're working at Airbnb. What year was this when you started working with them?
2013.
2013.
I was the 700th employee, right around the 700th.
So you saw Airbnb really like at that point. Where was Airbnb as far as like the growth? Because Airbnb started in 2008, 2013. Where was it around there?
The valuation was $8 billion, but it was significantly less known than that. That is a big company, but people in San Francisco, a lot of people in San Francisco, most people in San Francisco at this time, this was before the politics started, didn't know about Airbnb. Even nowadays, I was just in Argentina and I was taking an Uber ride. Uber is very similar to Airbnb. You would think if you heard of Uber, especially if you're an Uber driver, you probably would have heard of Airbnb. No, he was like, Air what? It brings me back to the days in 2013, when I ordered packages. I was at Airbnb office all the time. So when I had to order packages, I got them to Airbnb. And I'd be like, Airbnb headquarters. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, AIR. I'm sure it's the same thing that happened like a lot, like Google, all these companies, like, what? GOO. And then eventually everyone knows about it. Back then, the unaided awareness. So if you didn't say what it was, if you just like put a logo in front, the unaided awareness was at 6%, only 6% of the US population. So no one knew about this thing. I even think today, very few people know about this thing. When they go public next year, where they just announced, this will be bigger than it is for most companies, because like Google, everyone uses search. Uber, pretty much everyone needs that. But Airbnb, only if you have extra space, only if you travel. And a lot of people don't travel. The vast majority of people don't travel. So yeah, I was there pretty early on. Maybe a year after that, the politics started happening, and like the city of San Francisco, everyone knew about it. But like I said, even nowadays, a lot of people never heard the word Airbnb before. And it's a 35 billion company. I believe it's 4 times that amount at this time today.
Yeah, that's really hopeful for a lot of people getting into the space, because they're thinking, oh man, everybody's making money, everybody's getting into this. How am I supposed to, get my listing up there and be able to do well? And perfect guy for that. We have the Optimizer on the show. So what from that point, so you started working at Airbnb, what made you leave and want to kind of venture out on your own?
Nothing made me want to leave. I was fired. I was on the right bus. I was just thinking about this before the call, because it always comes up. I was in the wrong seat on the right bus. So after those 2 years, pretty quickly after I arrived, I realized, okay, so now I'm at a company that I love. I'm with a team that is awesome, but I'm still doing accounting. So it's that it's accounting. It's accounting that I don't like. So eventually it caught up with me. No real good story there. Just like I said, wrong seat, right bus, not making any mistakes, but such a competitive team, such a growing company. You need to like put in more than the bare minimums. And at a job you don't like, it's like, man, it's hard to put in more than bare minimums. In fact, when I would work at home when I was at Airbnb, I really wouldn't do anything. But I'd play that game where I was like signed on to the computer just to make them think I was working. because it was so hard. I would do anything. I'd clean the house, work out, anything. Call my parents besides work. And I was like, yeah, I just can't work from home. Nowadays, I'm talking to you from my home. Well, from someone else's home, but from my home at the moment. And actually, it turns out I'm so much more productive and so much more enjoyable working at home. It wasn't the working at home. It was the type of work that I was doing that I didn't like.
Now, so you finally found this thing that you love. You love working from home. You within that space, that process of cutting out. What about staying? So after you got fired, what made you want to stay in the space, and how did you kind of discover the optimization for Airbnb short-term rentals was where you were more passionate about?
It starts one step before that. So I'm an accountant. I'm in the accounting department. Have you ever had a desk job before?
Yeah. So
what does the company think? I mean, what kind of reputation does the accounting department and the accounting folks have?
Yeah, they're kind of the bottom of the barrel. Like, don't really want to mess with those guys. Those guys are kind of like, I don't know, not the greatest view.
Yeah, they're viewed as like a cost center, heads down, bean counters, just sitting at their desk working all day long, eating lunch, eating dinner at their desk. Well, in my case, eating lunch and dinner at their desk. Most people just lunch. So, and that's the reputation we have. But there was just a few months before I got fired, there was a promotion, and it was you refer someone, a host, you get $500, they get $500. So I heard this at the company meeting. I was like, whoa, $500. That was, first of all, whenever there was any kind of experiments going on with the user interface, when I was at Airbnb, I was a host. So whenever there's any experiments, I was like, I'll do it. Anything besides my job. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. And I did want to do it as well. And so there was a promotion. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, I'm doing that. That makes a lot of sense. So through that promotion, I met a property manager, local property manager. And that's how, when I was fired, I walked out on that Monday afternoon and I felt good, actually. It was weird. I didn't have a job and I'd just been fired, but I felt like a weight was lifted. I was like, that feeling in college when you have finals and then just after that last final, you're like, you don't have a job. You don't have any classes. You're like 100% free. Like, what should I do? That's how I felt. And so, and by the way, I left with $15,000 in Airbnb credit. I was number one. I referred 36, I think, people. The next best was 12. So that's where I kind of knew inside me I was more than an accountant. I was different. So that was kind of the first what is the thing?
Tipping point.
And all of them fall down. I'm forgetting the word. Yeah.
The domino effect.
Domino. Yeah, that was the first domino. I was like, not only did I get number one, but I'm an accountant. And so people actually took notice in the company. And this is why I was hired back just a few weeks later in a limited role, in a marketing type role in San Francisco. And I finished after that 8-month thing. I finished number one in that class in every category as well. And at this time, I was working for the short-term property manager. I was now doing business development. I was securing deals with the cleaning team. I was figuring out processes for when things go wrong and everything. And this is when it all kind of clicked. I know I'm doing something different than accounting, and I love it. And through the short-term property manager, my salary was based partly on my bonus, which was based on revenue. So if we had a crappy listing, I would tweak some things. It'd make the host happy. It'd make the owner happy. It'd make me happy because I get money. And eventually I started realizing like, oh, I'm changing like things. And sometimes within 3 hours, 1 hour, a booking would come in. And it doesn't take too many of those to be with a crappy listing to be like, oh, wait a minute, there's something here.
Now, how does a CPA that really didn't have too much experience with SEO or optimization be able to figure out like this? If I tweak this thing, it's going to have this type of result.
Oh, money! I'm very good with money. I've always been very good with money. So my bonus was based on how much money the company makes. So I had my pulse right on how much money we were making. And the more money I was able to make it, I tripled the amount of listings they had. They had like something around 20 when I left. They had something around 70. So I brought in a bunch of listings in that year. So I just thought of ways, how can I make more money? How can I make more money? I could bring in more listings, yeah, but with the existing listings, I can also make them more money. How about pricing the calendar? But specifically with the tweaking, the title, the photos, there was a point where I would go. I realized photos were so important. So I had a team. I hired a team around me at this company, but I knew photos were so important that I insisted on being there in person for every photo shoot. I would lay out the house. I wouldn't take the photos, but I would lay out the house, and I would tell the photographer, okay, take this, take that, take that.
Was it because of your experience working at Airbnb that you knew like these are the things that they're looking for? Or how did you know like these are the types of photos, these are the types of results that would impact how profitable a property would be?
Well, clearly I was at Airbnb and I was doing a bunch of experiments, any kind of UI test, user interface, user experience testing. Anytime I could get and do that stuff, I was in there. So there was some sort of a foundation for sure. I was in the company. I was hearing what the founders were saying. I was seeing the changes that were being discussed and whatnot. So at some level, yeah, it was kind of internalized. But I feel like I learned about all this stuff through trial and error after the fact, when I was not doing accounting for Airbnb, but when I was being a property manager. And keep in mind, when I was doing the property management for 8 of the months, that first year I did property management after Airbnb, for 8 of those months, I was still working for Airbnb was paying me. And I was in the Airbnb offices once to 3 times a week.
Now, you said that you liked being at the properties when you were taking the photos. You wrote the book Optimize My BNB, previously Optimize My Airbnb, but
the book is Optimize Your BNB.
Optimize Your BNB. Optimize Your BNB.
The website is Optimize My BNB.
Okay. Optimize Your BNB. But you wanted to be at the properties to view and kind of have oversight. Did you figure out like a way for other people, even just reading a book, to be able to, have their photos? Because photos are very personal. Like, it's hard to maybe distill the artistic, creative ability of telling someone that, hey, you should take this type of photo, down to, words on a page. How are you able to do that?
The short answer is no. I haven't found a way to do that, because it's half science. There's half, don't do a close-up of the ornament on the dining table. That's like a fact. Don't ever do that. But the other 50% is art. And I don't know, I think I have a knack for it. I have a helper who helps me a little bit with the reports, downloads photos and whatnot. And he tells me if they're professionally taken or not. And sometimes for me, it's just, I know right away if it's professionally taken, but sometimes, and he knows like 90% of the time, but there's sometimes where he's not sure if it's professional or not, professional photo. And for me, I can just tell right away. And the photo layout is different. The angles are different. So some listings have like 4 angles of the same room. Well, I haven't been able to really figure out, like pull out the facts in my brain to figure out, well, why exactly am I taking these 2 angles, or why just 1 angle this time and 2 angles that time? It all kind of fits into the whole experience. But yeah, short answer is I don't really have a answer for that.
Now, as you're working on this and kind of fine tuning your skill, when did it come to the point where it's like, okay, I can really be able to, do this and create a system and write a book about this to be able to help other people, and now you're doing this on your own? How did that progression take place?
That progression was pretty quick. I knew right away I could do this for other people. And so I sold my first one in, I think, June 2016. It was $5 and it took me about 45 minutes. And it's worked up nowadays, it's $300. And in August, Airbnbguide.com, they were the first ones to So back then I would reach out to everyone and I would say, hey, I'm a prior Airbnb employee. I'm starting this business. And he was the first one to promote me to his list. And he was rather large. And I remember in August, a few people bought me. At that time, it was $100. I think it was $100 or $99. And a few people bought the service. And I remember thinking like, whoa, these random people just paid another random person on the internet who says he can do something. And so that since then, it just took off. I wrote a ton of blog posts and just reached out to everyone, reached out to media, I still refine the report. Maybe once every 2 months, I'll add in a dozen changes to it.
Very cool. And so you really kind of found where your passion was with the creative aspect, the optimization, and then you also started taking some properties under yourself. Taking those properties, how has that been able to afford your lifestyle now?
I was going to start the initial plan was to create a property management company and create a huge one, create the world's best Airbnb property management company. But I realized pretty quickly, as soon as I left for the one weekend, that I didn't want to do this because I can't leave. It's too much work. I have to deal with hosts. I have to deal with guests. I have to deal with Airbnb. I have to deal with maintenance folks. I was like, I knew I didn't want to do this. When I was working at the other company, I guess she was taking care of a lot of the sales and customer service with hosts and whatnot. And I was working on making her money. So I pivoted to the Optimize business, but I kept the property management website, and actually it does tremendously well. I get inquiries daily almost, and I forward them to people who, one or two people actually, who are my preferred people in the Bay Area. Most of them come from the Bay Area, but I also mention it a couple of times in the book, and people come to me through the book. And right now I have 6 properties. I say on my website I don't serve more than 5 at a time because I'm not focused on property management. I'm focused on optimization, writing articles, creating videos, getting my information out. But I like to have a foot in the property management game. I can test my strategies until I get my own properties, which will be next year, hopefully, in Medellin. And that's how it works. Since then, I get inquiries, like I said, from just organic, from Yelp. I have really positive, lengthy reviews from prior hosts who I've worked with, and that's what's helped me keep myself in the property management game. It's actually been quite easy. I refer out 95% of inquiries that come in.
Now, what are the biggest things, because you get a lot of people coming to you wanting to have their listings optimized. What are the biggest things that people are having problems with that you're able to quickly resolve? Like what is something that without you having to look at it, that you can just tell someone and they can easily change that and then their listing will do a lot better?
Oh, if I didn't see the listing and someone just come to me, let's say we're at like some sort of an event venue, and they say, hey, my listing is it's the same thing. I'm not making enough money. Sometimes I'm not getting enough views, but that is also I'm not making enough money. Views don't matter. So if I didn't see the listing and they didn't say anything else than that, I would say this one thing. It would probably be text. Their text. Their photos, text, and title are the most important. A lot of people have professional photos. They just don't have the right layout and they have too many photos. But almost always, unless they've seen my stuff, almost always the text is really poorly done. It's in big blurbs of block text. It's got too much flowery, fluffy text in there. And it's like the third thing the guest sees, but I think this is really important for my conversion rate.
Now, what type of text should someone be having in their listing? You said you don't want fluff, you don't want big blocks of text. How do you want a listings text to be able to attract clients?
My strategy is treat people like the big news media treats them and Facebook treats them. People have short attention spans, and so you have to grab their attention and you have to keep it. And how I do that is I tell them what they're getting in bullet point format, very easy to consume and absorb. That's it. It's as easy as that.
And going from the top, you said that the photos, not to put too many photos in there. Is there, because I know Airbnb likes to have people include as many photos as you can, but you're saying that you shouldn't put too many photos. What type of photos are you trying to put in there?
So the absolute minimum is 10, probably like 12 as I'm more comfortable with. Really small houses, studios, it's hard to fit 12 in without repeating information. In this case, I would take neighborhood photos. I have a blog about that. There is an art and there's a way to optimize neighborhood photos. And I think most people should have at least one neighborhood photo, but at least 12 photos. And you really don't need, Airbnb does say, they seem to hint that more photos is better. I don't buy it. I'm more concerned about the conversion rate. So you don't have to take, I'm in my kitchen right now. You don't have to take 5 angles of the kitchen. You just have to take one angle that gets 90% of it in. If you can't do that, then do 2 photos. But I'm never having more than 2 photos per room. 2 photos of this living room would have normally 1 photo, but they have a hammock. So if I would do 2 photos here to definitely include the hammock. A lot of people do 4 angles of the bedroom. You don't need that. You need 1 angle with a bedroom, and then another, like if it's a room here, you'll do 1 angle here, and then one angle here. So you get both corners and the sides of the walls. You get everything in just 2 photos from different sides.
Now,
yeah, like this.
For the people that are listening on the podcast, this might be a little bit difficult to visualize, but on YouTube you can see Danny's hand gestures. So definitely
graphics in there on the YouTube. Yeah, and for the blog, for the podcast folks, just you're going to go to the opposite corners of the room, and you're going to shoot in kind of a similar angle. So you get in each photo, you get like two walls, 2 opposing walls.
Now, going down, the next thing would be the title. What do you see being the biggest issues that most people have common when they are putting in their titles, and what is the optimized way of doing that?
Yeah, titles is another one where basically everyone gets it wrong. I just did I have a blog post on my website. It's one of my most popular ones. And I just did an accompanying Airbnb quick tip, which I do once a week, 5 minutes or less, about the same subject. And the things that I would say, remove any generic words, like the 80-20 principle. I would say remove any generic words, add in amenities that you're offering, add in an emoji of some sort to catch more people's eyeballs and attention. And then you're going to set yourself apart from the 90% of listings who say 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom in Sunset District, San Francisco, or whatever. The funny thing is, I rented an Airbnb Plus in Buenos Aires, and they had the neighborhood in the Airbnb Plus title, and the host loses control of this. I'm convinced it's just some random employee is controlling this, and they just give them kind of guidelines, and that's that. They're already in Plus, so it doesn't matter. Putting the neighborhood in most of the time doesn't make sense. Either they've already heard about it because it's very famous, or they've never heard about it. Neither of which it makes sense to include it.
So when people are searching on Airbnb, they're not looking for a specific neighborhood. They're looking more for like amenities. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. If someone is, let's say, so when I went to Buenos Aires, I already knew Palermo is like the premier neighborhood. So if there's the first neighborhood you're going to hear about, it's going to be Palermo probably. So yeah, I indeed typed in Palermo neighborhood, but that takes me to the neighborhood of Palermo, which it's rather not focused. So I've been traveling a while, so I know exactly where I want to stay. But it's not, a lot of people have Palermo in their title, but it's not, so having Palermo in your title isn't going to bring you to first of the list. It's bringing you to the neighborhood, not to a listing.
So people think that by putting the specific location in their title, that'll help with the optimization, almost like you were to put into Google, like, Palermo Airbnbs, they would think because that's in their title that it would come up as number 1, but you're saying that's not true?
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I wrote an article about how and why Airbnb is not Google. There's significant differences. Airbnb is not Google. There's a lot of SEO people who try and get into the Airbnb space, and they're like, yeah, use the keywords, beef up the text, use the keywords, man. And I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that on Airbnb. It might, Airbnb's never said it. It might rank them higher, maybe. Maybe they're one spot, let's say it works. So maybe they're a 1 or 2 spots higher than me. But my conversion rate is going to be way higher than theirs because I'm giving them the facts. What are they getting? I'm getting excited. Oh, I get, Netflix, cool. Oh, I get a hammock in the living room, indoor hammock. Oh, cool. I get a balcony, cool. The other listing, the keyword beefing, the beefy keyword guys, I got to read a paragraph and pick out, okay, Netflix, hammock, indoor hammock, balcony. I've stopped reading here, so all I see is Netflix.
So really what it sounds like, everything from the photo has to be a hook, the title has to be a hook, and then the description has to be a hook. It's not so much about what specifically you're putting in there. It's just how can you attract your certain ideal client is kind of what you're saying? Yeah,
I would say to sum it up, deliver the most amount of information to the guest in the least amount of time.
Now, do you also work on like the house rules and house manual? Is that stuff that you are also trying to optimize? Does that matter for conversions? Like how many house rules you have in your listing, or what if you're putting a spare air mattress in the room or a pull-out couch, is that stuff also put into consideration?
Everything you said is put into consideration. The house rules is an interesting point because it's a sensitive area. It's a legal type area. So I don't mess with it too much, though I do a little bit. Like if someone adds in checkout instructions on the additional rules, I'll just remove that right away. It's totally unnecessary. And I'll add it to the house manual in the back end after they book. But I do think from my own house rules, from my own experience, I get people who ask me about on what one of my house rules is, hey, I require guests to have travel's insurance. It protects them for lost luggage, canceled flights, etc. And every now and then someone will ask me about this. So guests read it. It's pretty prominent. If you've ever been a guest, I'm sure most of your listeners have. If you've ever been a guest, when you click out, they highlight the rules. They don't make you click anything off, but the rules are very highlighted. These are the house rules. I recommend you highlight the important house rules. A lot of people have like a legal contract in there. Well, I guess that protects you, but no one's reading that. And if you have some real like important house rules, guests are missing them. So if you go with that big legalese type contract, pull out the really important rules, make it stupid people language, and put it all the way at the top.
So we've covered some of the, when I'm thinking of optimizing a listing, I am thinking of, the photos, I'm thinking of the title, I'm thinking of the description. Are there other things that hosts should be thinking of, or that hosts should be considering, that maybe they aren't really as aware of that they should be optimizing?
Yes. The first thing is when Airbnb adds in selections in the back end, new features, you should take advantage of these right away. Tells the system, okay, you think Airbnb is dumb? They said a while ago, changing your calendar makes you rank high. So that's true. It still does that. But I get questions all the time. People are so worried about, I'm going to connect to the smart pricer. That'll fix my issues. Well, no, Airbnb knows that nowadays. It's just like travel hacking. Like I think travel hacking is a waste of time. It used to be cool, but they figured it out now, the airline industries. You need to dedicate a lot of resources to make that work. So yeah, changing your calendar every day works, but to what degree? Probably very small. There is a new feature in the backend called accessibility. So what I'm saying is, yeah, do the calendar, but also if there's 2 listings and one is doing the calendar every day, well, both are doing the calendar every day, and then they add in accessibility features like they have, and this listing fills out the accessibility features. Well, okay, we recognize that this automatic tool is doing the calendars. This guy's going in manually. Okay, we're going to bump him up. Additionally, he's getting good reviews and whatnot. So there's that. I would say for your listeners, go in there. You might not have to click anything off, but go in there and see if you can. There's probably something. There's a lot of options on there. They added a new section on photos where you identify the spaces that you have available: dining space, living room, patio, garage, exterior, and then you assign photos to those spaces. I go and do those. Those things matter as well as everything else, but those things as well matter. And those are kind of the two newest things that Airbnb has added.
With the calendar, I mean, that can be pretty tedious, and especially because a lot of our listeners are property managers. To go in and change the pricing of every single listing, can that be replaced by just using dynamic pricing to automatically adjust it, or does Airbnb know, like, hey, you're not actually physically going in and changing this by $1 or whatever?
Oh, well, they don't know, but they do know. You can predict behavior. If they're changing the calendar by this amount every day at 12:37 a.m., it's pretty obvious. But I really think it has a small degree of importance. Go to so for your property managers, your hosts with 1, 2, 3, 5 homes, any homes, go to pricelabs.co. Sign up for the 30-day free trial. Enter in I think all capitals, Optimize. You'll get a little discount on your first month. I think it's like $15 or $20 per listing, and it gets cheaper with each added listing. If your listing is more than about $80 a night, $70 or $80 a night, depending on your occupancy, it will work out cheaper than the other services like Beyond Pricing and Wheelhouse, who charge 1% of your revenue. And then after you do that, go to my YouTube and type in, go to the playlist Price Labs. And what I do is on Wednesday, I go in and I look at my occupancy, my future occupancy, and my base rate, and I change it. And I go through that process in my head. I verbalize what's in my head and how I do things. And they have a lot of customizations, but I keep it simple at the beginning. All you do is this. There's all these other customizations. I have another video. Once you get into those customizations, I have them broken down, the 12 or so customizations they have. But don't use Airbnb Smart Pricing. Use Price Labs.
With Price Labs, so even though you recommend going into the calendars yourself, you also still recommend using a dynamic pricing for those people that have multiple listings?
Oh, if you use a dynamic pricing, they update your calendar themselves. So it takes care of the automatic updating that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. I was just clarifying because I thought when you said that the dynamic pricing, Airbnb knows that it's automatically doing it, so they kind of frown upon that.
No, they definitely don't frown upon it. It's a good thing. It's a good thing to keep your calendar updated. The last thing Airbnb wants is someone that just happened to me. This calendar is open in August. I inquired with the host, and he said no, it's not available, so he blocked the days off. But I really wanted this listing. I waited a few months. I just inquired last week. Dates were open, like perfect dates, November 9th. I was like, oh, great. November 9th, I inquired. He's like, I got to check. The next morning, he's like, no, not available. So Airbnb doesn't want that. They want you to be updating your calendar. And this is hurting the host. He just got 2 requests for 1 month each. That's a lot of money for Airbnb, the company. So this host is losing Airbnb, the company, money.
What would you say, like all this back end? So we have the calendars. You said opting into the new settings that Airbnb offers. What about the types of restriction that you're putting? I know that like if you could set it for flexible or very strict, does that matter as well for how your listing is going to be optimized?
Yeah, pretty much everything matters. But as you just touched on, the cancellation policy, I believe that, though Airbnb's never said it, I believe that they give a boost to flexible. They've done enough testing and how I can see how the platform is moving. They seem to preference flexible listings. I highly recommend that. There's only one listing that I have, which I don't have flexible, 1 out of 6, because it just seemed to attract crap guests and had a ton of cancellations. So that one's moderate. I never recommend strict. Moderate or flexible. Go with flexible if at all possible.
So we've covered all of these different aspects. What would you say though is the big things? Is it just the photos, title, description that a host really should be aware of, and then everything else is just kind of a little bit extra?
Yeah, the 80-20 rule says photos, title, text for sure. We've only talked about the online listing though. Airbnb it's half the battle. The other half is your reviews, which are reflective of more so your hosting strategy, not your online listing. You get the reservation from your optimized listing. You get reviews from your hosting strategies and abilities. And that's a whole nother topic that we can do. I'll return in a few months and we can do that topic. But the biggest thing there is listen up. Everyone who's listening, listen up now. Turn the volume up. Turn the TV off.
Park the car.
Yeah, park the car. Whatever you're doing extra. This is very important. It's very underutilized. It's a digital guidebook. Not to be confused with the guidebook in Airbnb, which is recommendations only. The digital guidebook is something that I send to the guest in a link after they book, 3 days before they check in. I send them a link that says, here's your guidebook. The check-in information is here, parking information. I say Wi-Fi information is here, so that means they have to click on it because it's the first thing that everyone wants to know. And this is underutilized. For example, I'm in a place now. It's beautiful. It's the best interior design place in the area for sure. And the host was very good. He's a super host. He has a see if you can see that. See those papers on the wall next to the white bag? So those are his manual house manual, which is okay. It's like level 1. Level 2 though is a digital house manual because you can make changes easier to it. Now his looks nice; they're laminated and whatnot, but they're easily forgettable. You're always often you're referring to the Airbnb app. And you can update it. And oftentimes they don't look that good. They look kind of crappy after a while. Also, you can include just one more thing. There's a bunch of more things but I feel like my argument wasn't strong enough. So I'll add one more thing. You can also, with your recommendations, you can add in directions right away. So here, that sounds good. I'll go find it on my map and whatnot. In the digital guidebook, another thing you can do, which is big, adds the guest experience. However the guest experiences your city, that reflects in the review. They can just they have it on their phone. They click the address, bring me there, bam, really easy.
Very cool. Yeah, and I love that you brought that point up. Optimization is there's the front end optimization, which is what's going to hook those people in, but then there's your back end optimization. So once they're in, how are you going to be able to create their experience enough and get those reviews so that it can boost your listing up? What would you say that the reviews are? I mean, the reviews, obviously that's a big portion, but as far as your front end versus your back end, what's the weight on both of those?
As far as your occupancy rate,
how it's going to affect your listings performance from front end optimization versus back end optimization?
For me, they're totally different worlds. They're like the front end is like before the review, before the reservation. That's how you get them, and then the back end is your hosting strategies. So first optimization of listing, you get the reservation good. Now your hosting strategies, you get the review. They're like totally different. If you have one and not the other, it's just not going to work.
Now, when people are working with you, when you are working with them, just to clarify, you're not just working on front end optimization. You're also working on the back end optimization as well. How they're performing as hosts.
It depends. I used to only do front end optimization through my optimization reports, startup, advanced, and super host. But after a while went by, I realized, okay, these people need also the hosting strategies. So I created Elevate Host, which it's a super host package, which is the premium front end package. And then also I work on pricing. I create a digital guidebook for you. I set you up for automatic messages, coordinate with your cleaners, give you an amenities checklist. These are the things that you should have. So that's the full package.
Very cool. And we'll get Danny on another show to talk more about the back end optimization. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time because you are traveling. You are a busy guy. I'm just curious for the listeners and myself, how is Airbnb? Because right now you're in Medellin, Colombia. How is Airbnb more like in the South America area? Is it as popular as in the US, or what's the view on it, the stance, and how are the listings in general? Like, how are people performing?
Airbnb is more popular outside the U.S. than it is inside the U.S. So, and you're talking about specifically about Latin America?
Yes.
That what you want me to hit on? So the listings here, well, first of all, they're very cheap. I can rent a very nice house here in a serviced apartment with a balcony for $600, $700, $800, $900, $1,000, which is what I paid for my bedroom in San Francisco. It's comparable. It's comparable. I would say the decor sometimes is lacking in these cities. That's what separates the hosts here. They're really nicely interior designed listings, whereas in the U.S. and these more developed countries, pretty much most hosts have the interior design. The house looks nice. It's updated. It's modern. That would be the biggest difference I see.
Okay, but as far as how people are performing, is it very competitive? Because a lot of the listeners on this show, they are very competitive. They're all about optimizing. They're all about trying to get their listing to the top. Do you see the same type of competitiveness down in Colombia as well?
Most of the people who buy from me are from the U.S., Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, Ireland, these European countries and English-speaking countries. However, I think that has to do with the fact that my services are expensive. So this is why I do free YouTube. Everything else is free. All my blogs are free. There's no secrets that I'm hiding. I've pretty much written about everything. And then the book is also cheap. So you don't need to pay me at all. And actually, I prefer you don't, because I have plenty of business. I don't want any more. But everything's free out there. The only difference is, at this point, you're paying for your time. If you want to pay me, yeah, I can do it for you for sure. It'll be expensive, but if you value your time that much, you pay me and I'll do it for you. If you have the time or you don't have the money, take some time and read my blog, watch the videos, read my book for sure. That's where I take everything from my blog and all my information and I organize it so that the organization is worth something. And then apply what you can to your own listing, and then reach out to me, but only if you've made a concerted effort to do it yourself. Because a lot of people reach out to me and they're like, I read your book. Can you help me? And I'll look at their title, the first thing, and it's like 2-bedroom, amazing, spacious, light house, on the beach. And I'm like, no, you didn't give me enough effort for me to spend my time working with you. So if you do that and then reach out to me on my website chat and you've made an effort, I can tell right away. Then I'll say, yeah, this, like tweak these 3 things. If it's just 2 or 3 things, I'll just tell you, do these things. Or if it's something more complicated, I'll send you a blog post or a YouTube video.
Great. And I'll include Danny's website and the book down below. The book, definitely, Danny lays it all out. It's one of the top, going to be probably one of the top rated books on Amazon. 128 reviews right now. So
it is the top rated and most highlighted book on Airbnb. It doesn't have the most reviews yet, but soon. But it's the highest rated.
It is the highest rated. So that it says a lot. And great. But I just want to thank you so much, Danny, for coming on here and educating the audience. You provide just so much tremendous value with the free content that you're putting out there on YouTube and the blog post and with the book as well. So everything that everybody needs, like Danny was saying, it's out there. It's out there. But it's what do you value? If you value your time, then then maybe you don't want to have to go through a whole book and try to learn this. If you want one more personal coaching, it's out there, but there is a cost with that. But Danny's taking the time out to give us this free resource, this free content for those of you that like to travel on the go and listen. So definitely want to thank him. Send him a message, leave a comment down below in the video. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Danny, and we'd be happy to help you guys out. But without further ado, and until next time, Host Nation, keep on hosting. Hope you hosts benefited from the show. If you found value, please go on over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let us know what you enjoy about the show. If you'd like to talk to hosts that have been featured in these episodes as well as the community, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation.